What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with DFS, and in today's video, going over Week 6 main slate. This is for cash GPPs, kind of going over where I'm at as far as evaluating some of these games. So, getting into the quarterback position, we can go a few different routes in cash. I think, honestly, if you're looking at who do you take offensively, right? Who do you think is just gonna be the safest play? And they're all around the same tier at Justin Herbert 63, pretty much Drake May and Daniel Jones at 6K and 5,900. Both these guys I think are very solid plays on this slate. Justin Herbert, I know the Chargers have struggled offensively, where we haven't seen that connection. I think with the injuries to both Najee Harris, Omari and Hampton, the offensive line injuries, we're going to see a more pass-friendly game for Justin Herbert. If you know anything about Miami's defense, their strongest part of their defense is that defensive line. So getting the ball out quick for Herbert. They still have some pieces, right? Mika Fitzpatrick's played really good for Miami. Russell Douglas has also played really good for Miami. Those two guys have stepped up in the secondary. But the pressure should be coming from the Miami defensive front. So I want to target the Chargers passing game in this one. They do have a 24.5 team implied total, so I do like that one. Daniel Jones and the Colts against the Kyler Murray-less Cardinals, maybe? We'll find out, which does kind of change some things, but the Colts have been, I would say, very efficient this season as an offense, right? Some games we see Jonathan Taylor shine. Other times we see Daniel Jones of the passing game shine. Sometimes we see the kicker shine. I mean, this team is scoring. They are scoring points. They do not care. They're going to try to score every drive. So at 6K, I think I like the passing attack for Daniel Jones in this Indiana offense against the Arizona defense. At 6K, I think this is a game where we get Daniel Jones a 20-plus point performance. And then Drake May on the road against New Orleans. I think a lot of people are going to overvalue what New Orleans just did against the Giants, who the Giants just somehow knocked off Philly. You gotta love NFL football. Just keeps you on your toes, right? But yeah, Drake May 5,900 on the road against New Orleans. He is a guy. He's the same tier as Daniel Jones. If you've watched my videos, I've talked about these two guys week in and week out pretty much. As long as they are under 6K, they are going to be quarterbacks I like playing every week. And Drake May, even against Buffalo in the primetime game, looked very damn good. You got Ramondre Stevenson getting terrible touchdowns, but Drake May, even getting 12 fantasy points, looked very good against a very good defense in Buffalo. But other than that, he's been pretty consistent as far as his fantasy points this season. So I do like Drake May quite a bit. I think he's kind of at that top of cash. Moving on to some other tournament quarterbacks, and granted, right, these are just guys. If I'm personally playing 150 lines, I do it every Sunday. I'm not doing the big baller one, right? I'm just doing the 50-cent one. $75. I'm doing 150 lineups, so I want to have more than a few names in my quarterback pool. I'm gonna want to have Dak Prescott and that offense against Carolina. Although it's not the greatest, and I do wish CeeDee Lamb was there. The upside for Dallas's offense is going to be consistent this season, where we are going to see some games, like the game against Chicago, where the offense just does not click. But what we are going to see is Dak Prescott throwing the ball a lot this season. That has pretty much been pretty damn consistent. Last week, he didn't throw it as much as he has the rest of the season. But where he did lack in pass attempts and kind of yardage, he made up for in touchdowns. So I do like Dallas's offense. I think I think they are what the Cincinnati Bengals offense was last season, to where in order for Dallas to win games, they're going to have to put up pretty much 27 plus points a game to win. Their defense I just do not think is good. So Dallas's offense I'm going to be on all season, so I think Dak Prescott definitely playable in this one. Matthew Stafford, this is one you have to be careful for with the Matt Stafford thing, right? Win off the last 2 weeks, is in an amazing spot against a Baltimore defense that's banged up. even when they're not banged up. They've been one of the worst defenses by like every metric, every stat, one of the worst defenses in the league. But I would be cautious that the Rams' run game could overtake this. I think Matt Stafford and the passing game is going to have a lot of success. I don't see them struggling a lot, but could we see a game where Matt Stafford goes and throws a 196 and 2 touchdowns? Possibly. I think they should be able to handle Baltimore pretty good. But there's always that concern that someone like Kyron, who I really like, kind of overtakes that game. So I would be careful if you play Matt Stafford, but he's in a really good spot. Everything tells you to play him, so I definitely want to have exposure on that one. Continue to go down. I don't care who the quarterback is, whether it's Brock Purdy or whether it's Mac Jones. Want to have exposure to whoever that starting quarterback is in that game. So it's 6,100 for Brock Purdy or 5,600 for Mac Jones. Watching the injury status for kind of both of them, but more Purdy than Jones. But if Jones is the guy, I definitely want to get some exposure there. Sam Darnold, I think, is going to be an interesting one. He's that Jacksonville-Seattle game could be a back and forth game, so I like Sam Darnold in that pass attack. He's at a cheap price, right? Like, for a guy that's put up pretty damn good consistent numbers, he's still at a cheap price at 5,400, right? And we just saw one of his better games he's had this season, so I do like Sam Darnold and that pass attack, especially going with JSN. I will say a name I want to throw out there, and it hurts because Calvin Austin is there. But I think Aaron Rodgers at home, getting someone like Jalen Warren back is a huge plus to that pass attack. So I do think Aaron Rodgers is worth a tournament here against Cleveland. It's not the greatest one, but I definitely want to get exposure to that one. And then other than that, there's a couple other names. And this is just because of price, but I think the price is well warranted. Bryce Young at 4,800 against Dallas. Jalen Coker looks like he's going to be back, and Bryce Young is going to get another reliable target for him. So I think if you, in my opinion, if you kind of slide Xavier Legette behind Coker and you kind of run with Tet, Coker, and Hunter Renfrow, I think it's going to be a nice trio for Bryce Young, give a lot more security for that pass attack, especially with the offensive line injuries, the running back, the Chuba Hubbard situation, but Rico Dowdle handled himself last week. And then last but not least, I am going to say Cam Ward at 4,600 against Vegas. We've seen how bad Vegas's defense has been. We've seen how bad Tennessee's offense has been. Not a lot of people are going to be playing Cam Ward, right? Even with him winning the game, it was not pretty. Did not have a passing touchdown. Only 2 passing touchdowns on the season. I want to try to attack against that Vegas defense. So I think having a stack of, a Cam Ward with cheaper Calvin Ridley, Iron Manor, that stack is one that I'm definitely going to look at, especially at the price points in tournaments. It allows me to definitely double up on my running backs, pay for a top receiver by going a cheap Tennessee stack. So I will say Cam Ward. Moving on to running backs, this one for me is going to be different. So going down, I don't like Jonathan Taylor as much as I'd like to. For $100 cheaper, I would go for McCaffrey, who seems to be in a safer game script as far as how Tampa Bay's been up against the running backs, right? Tampa Bay's played running backs pretty good on the ground. We've seen the receiving work not be as good, and that's where we've seen someone like Christian McCaffrey shine. So I'd prefer McCaffrey if you want to spend up for a running back at 8,400. Definitely, if you go a cheaper quarterback, which you're allowed to this week, even if you go a Herbert, like here's the thing. All these guys are the top projected quarterbacks as far as ownership. We'll go Indy first, just to show you guys how easy it is this week. Daniel Jones, you put with someone like a Michael Pittman, and you're still at 5,500, right? That's a really good price point. So let's go Chargers. We'll exit out these two. Let's go the Herbert route, right? Spending up a little more than Daniel Jones, but still get someone like a Keenan Allen at 5,600. You're at 5,400 average, and that's without a defense. So I definitely think it is very doable this week to pay up for a CMC, pay up for another top receiver with kind of a cheaper quarterback, right? We're not getting the quarterbacks in the high 7-8K range, right? Lamar's the most expensive quarterback and he's probably not playing, so we're getting the most expensive quarterback at 6,600. So we're getting value this week, so we're allowed to do that. Going down, I like Devon Achane in tournaments, I really do. I'm not going near him in cash, right? I think the upside for someone like a Devon Achane with Tyreek Hill is definitely there. His price is just crazy for the outcome and the output he's had so far this season. Going against a Chargers defense that has played running backs pretty damn good so far this season, it is a concern. Obviously, Achane gets a lot of his points in the receiving game as well. So even if he's not efficient in the run game, he should be efficient there. But Josh Jacobs for $500 cheaper is in a much safer game script against a Cincinnati defense that has been very, very bad against all running backs so far this season. Josh Jacobs has not looked as good this season as he has in previous. I think it's a really good, follow-up to that game against Dallas. We've seen him play Detroit. Detroit's played running backs really damn good this season. Cleveland's played running backs pretty damn good this season. I'd say Washington is probably the outlier so far for Jacobs. But his price point for the matchup is great. So at 7,300, I definitely like that one. Ashton Jeanty for tournaments, not cash tournaments, I think is a really good play. This is another strong opportunity for Jeanty against a defense that is just, they're slowly just getting picked apart as far as confidence and playing well. Right, last week you beat Arizona, but I mean Michael Carter and Mr. I'm going to fumble the ball on the 1 yard line had a really good game against Tennessee. If you combine their numbers, Jeanty gets a lot of the work there. Raheem Mostert does get some type of volume, but I think it's a really safe game for Jeanty as well in this one at 6,900. Vegas, if they're going to compete, needs to win this game, so I see them utilizing Jeanty quite a bit. And then we start to get to the Williamses. Javonte Kyren, both these guys are cash for me. Javonte Williams, yet again, he's another guy, whether he just, you like him or you hate him, right? Like, there's no reason he should have gotten 29 points last week, 29 DraftKings points against a Jets team where his offensive line was extremely banged up. The Jets have some pieces on that defensive line. I mean, they have some first-round picks on that defensive line that should have ate Javonte up, and Javonte still had a crazy good game. He's been one of the best running backs so far this season. He's still at a cheap-ish price for what he's produced so far at 6,400. I think he's a great play. I think Kyren is kind of the play that I want to go for, though, at 6,300 against Baltimore. You want to have exposure to a team with a high team implied total. They're at 26. They're heavy favorites. Everyone's assuming Lamar's out. So I could easily see a 2-touchdown game for Kyren Williams in this game again. Obviously, the rushing attempts aren't there anymore, and I don't think they're going to be. I think we're going to see Blake Corum continue to get volume. But yet again, he's a guy that gets utilized in the receiving game as well. So Kyren Williams at his price point, I think, is just a smash play this week. Continue to go down. Rico Dowdle, if Chuba Hubbard is officially out, I think he's a really nice play at 5,800. Obviously, Carolina's still dealing with some offensive line injuries. But we just saw someone like a Breece Hall have a very, very good game against that Dallas defense. And now Rico Dowdle is in kind of that similar spot. Jaylen Warren, I will mention Jaylen Warren that he's getting ownership. I am not sold on that. And I don't know how I pass him, so I'll go back to him. But Jaylen Warren is getting ownership right now, and that's just because of the price point, and that's because of what he's done. I'm going to stay away. Rashard White, this is who I meant to find. I forgot he was at 6K this week, but Rashard White is also another piece. If you have to get cheaper off of a Kyren or Javonte, I think Rashard White at 6K is kind of that route to go, where we saw him last week, 14 for 41, but he also got, 4 receptions for 30 yards and got the red zone work. So had a really good game against Seattle. Kind of a similar game script for him where if San Fran can do what they did last week against the Rams, and I'm not saying as efficient, but just get the ball downfield, pace the Rams, make it so they're not comfortable. We've seen the one thing about Tampa Bay. Here's the thing. They have 4 wins this season. all 4 wins are comeback wins. They are in the fourth quarter competing every game. So with that being said, it's not saying that Rachaad White's going to be totally just, hey, we're up, we're winning. You're kind of going to be, lower volume this quarter, and we're going to go with the Sean Tucker, keep you healthy with, Bucky banged up. They're going to utilize them. They're going to utilize them all 4 quarters. Tampa Bay just plays teams tough, and they're a clutch team. It's one of the higher totals on the slate, so I definitely like Rachaad White there. Other than that, there's not a lot that I love at the running back position. But going to the wide receivers, if you were paying down at a quarterback, getting some other cheap pieces, if you want to go the Puka route, I understand why you want to go the Puka route. I have no problem with wanting to play Puka. The price point is where the questioning comes in, right? This is one of the highest prices we've seen so far this season, if not the highest. I don't think actually, maybe a CMC, but I don't think we got him 8,600, and that was in a showdown, so that still doesn't even count. So I think Puka is the highest we've seen a player priced on a main slate. So although Puka's in a great spot, I love Puka. I think he is. There's nothing really bad to say this. There's truly nothing bad to say. The only thing is Puka should have a good game. There's scenarios where the Rams run the ball, right? There's scenarios where it's not like last week where Puka Nacua, Puka has a great game by all means, 10 for 85 and a touchdown. But at that price point of 8,700, you need Puka to get 30 plus points. If you are paying for a Puka at 8,700, you need him to get 30 plus points for him to really pay off. There's no, you could say Flacco, but there's no cheap quarterbacks. I like Cam Ward. I like Bryce Young. I think Bryce Young is probably the cheapest I'd go if for some reason you wanted to go for that in cash. The running backs, we're not getting any crazy cheap plays unless something happens to Kamara, then Kendre Miller, I guess. But we're not getting any crazy cheap plays. There's some really good payups at running back. It's hard to pay for a Puka. If you want to go another round, get a top wide receiver target in a game that should be competitive, JSN at 7,600. I think he's kind of the route to go of where I'm looking at as far as ownership. So JSN at 7,600 is kind of the guy I like there. Other than that, moving down, I think Ibuka's got to be mentioned with watching Godwin's status. I think Ibuka's got to be worth mentioning in tournaments against the San Francisco defense. Pickens in this matchup, I love the Dallas Carolina game, so I want to get exposure to Pickens. If you want to get leverage on the Rams side, Devontae Adams is kind of the leverage play, right? He's 6,700, so he is more than Kyron. But with Kyron's ownership, with Puka's ownership, if you want to get a leverage play, Devontae Adams is in a pretty damn good spot as well. So, but going back to kind of cash, we get this tier of wide receivers. I think Brian Thomas Jr. is in a great spot against Seattle. Seattle dealing with a lot of defensive injuries. I think last week probably was the start of what we're going to see if Brian Thomas and Trevor Lawrence get that connection. So at 6,200, I love Brian Thomas Jr. this week. Jalen Waddle, although it is a tougher matchup for him last week against Carolina, which I still think is sort of tough to be thrown upon. They have J.C. Horn, one of the better corners in the league, played Waddle quite a bit. I think it's a better matchup for Waddle this week. Obviously, his price point is a lot higher at 6,100. So I at that price point, I probably lean Tet, but I do think Jalen Waddle's also in a really, really great spot in that Miami Chargers game. Tet at 6K, yet again, I mentioned him last week. Didn't really pay off 13.3, but I think he's in another really good spot. I think it's just one of these games is going to be the game where he goes off for 30 plus. He is so close. We've seen him get targets, seen him get some penalties, some unfortunate situations, but Tet is in such a great spot at 6K. Going down cheaper, I like Jacoby Myers for tournaments. We'll mention him. But Stephon Diggs for cash at 5,800, to where we saw the connection happen last week. We saw it against Carolina, 6 for 101. Last week was, in all due respect to him, kind of a FU game to Josh Allen. For some reason, that beef is there. I hope one day we hear everything that happened of where this went downhill. But Yeah, Stephon Diggs the last 2 weeks has just been a monster, and we're probably going to see a more consistent basis of him getting that volume between him, Hunter Henry. The thing with this is and if Travion Henderson was the running back, I would love this Patriots offense so much. I would love them, but they keep running through Ramondre Stevenson, which could be beneficial for Stephon Diggs and Drake May. That stack is very cheap, right? 5,900 for Drake May, 5,800 for Stephon Diggs. I love that stack. And then Keenan Allen at 5,600. Yet again, I will mention the Chargers wide receivers. They're in a really good spot against this Miami defense. So at 5,600 being the cheapest Charger wide receiver, I'm going to target Keenan Allen. DK Metcalf, I would watch the Calvin Austin news, but if Calvin Austin is out, I think DK Metcalf's in an amazing spot against Cleveland, to where they just traded away their probably best corner. I mean, you could argue Denzel Ward. I'm fine with that. They traded for Campbell. We don't know if Campbell's going to play, but if Campbell's not there, then Cleveland's essentially down a corner that would see DK Metcalf quite a bit. The San Fran wide receiver injury news, watch this because we're going to get some opportunities there. So I'm not going to talk about San Fran right now, but kind of, Sunday morning, I'll go over that again. Michael Pittman at 5,400. He's also in a really strong cash spot. He's been pretty damn consistent for the Colts so far this season. So if you want, a nice consistent game, he's got 4 touchdowns in 5 games. The Colts offense has been, one of the best offenses in the league so far this season. So getting some exposure, right, if you're wanting to fade a Jonathan Taylor, then going the Michael Pittman route makes a lot of sense. Olave at 5,100. My concern with Olave, and I love Olave, he's going to continue to get targets, right? Like 10 plus targets in 4 out of the 5 games so far this season. But I am concerned with Christian Gonzalez coming back that people are still going to be used to the Patriots defense just being terrible, absolutely terrible against the pass. I'm not the strongest believer in New Orleans' offense. If I'm going to take a shot on a New Orleans wide receiver in this game, I'm probably paying down for a guy that's going to get way lower ownership in Shaheed and go that route and then play Olave. Romeo Doubs, yet again, one of the highest team implied totals of the week, just not just the main slate of the week, is Green Bay against Cincinnati. So I want to have exposure to Josh Jacobs, obviously, but I want to get some exposure to Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks, and Tucker Kraft in tournaments as well. So I want to target that route. I mentioned Calvin Ridley in Io Minor. Both those guys I think are definitely playable in tournaments. Obviously, I'm not going that route in cash, but they are in pretty good spots for tournament play. With someone like a Jacoby Myers, I think Trey Tucker is still in a really good spot against Tennessee on the other side of that game. It's just Trey Tucker's price point. I miss when he was 3K, in the 3K range. Last 2 weeks, 4,200 for 4.2, 4,700 for 11.7, which isn't bad. But Geno Smith's got to be better. Geno Smith has to be better. I don't know what they're doing. They targeted Genty so much. You're not getting the ball to Trey Tucker, Jacoby Myers. So as long as they get targets in really good spots, but it is just tough to really kind of target that game. Josh Downs, yet again, I think he is playable this week. It pains me to look at Josh Downs' stats and not see any 15 plus games, 20 plus games so far this season. And it's just because Jonathan Taylor's been amazing. Tyler Warren has been one of, if not the best tight ends this season. And Michael Pittman has been a very good, consistent piece this season versus last season. He had his up and downs. Granted, we could probably see that's because of quarterback play, but Josh Downs, yet again, not in cash, but in tournaments. Same thing for Jalen Coker. I'm very excited to see Jalen Coker back. Hopefully he's a full go. Has been a full go so far this week in practice, so at 4,200, definitely like getting some exposure there. But yeah, if you want to go Wicks, like I said, I want to get exposure to Green Bay's offense in tournaments. Flournoy, apparently at 3,600. This guy's worth targeting, right? Just comes out of nowhere, has a great game. But that's probably it for receivers. The cheapest guy I'm truly kind of looking at is Io Minor at 3,900. But I do like the Jalen Coker, Josh Downs route. So moving on to tight ends. Tight ends is kind of different for me. There's not a lot of plays that I love outside of some of the top pieces. So Trey McBride, obviously, Jake Ferguson's in an amazing spot, Tyler Warren, Tucker Kraft. Like these four are in great spots. And man, I'm probably yet again paying down for Jake Ferguson or Tyler Warren this week than paying up for Trey McBride. I would imagine Jacoby Brissett's the quarterback. I don't want to really get a lot of ownership in that Arizona offense then. I mean, the run game is probably not going to be that good against Indy. So, although Arizona should be passing the ball more, I don't want to go the Trey McBride route where I think Ferguson, Warren, Kraft, all three of those guys are in better spots. Even Hunter Henry at 4,300, right? We mentioned how good of a spot Drake May's in, how good of a spot Stephon Diggs is in, but Hunter Henry also in a really good spot where we just saw the Giants tight ends go off on New Orleans defense last week. Hunter Henry, I've said this, right? He's a boom or bust guy. The last 2 weeks, 6 targets combined. I mean, 11.9 at 4K, sure, it's not the worst, but 6.6 at 4,500, probably not helping yourself out. So this is a good opportunity for a bounce back spot for Hunter Henry. I'm still probably paying up for Ferguson or Warren in cash, but in tournaments, I'm wanting to get some exposure to Hunter Henry. Darren Waller, I'm going to mention this. I think if Darren Waller goes off this week, I apologize. I will 100% apologize to him. I don't think it's a good matchup for him against the Chargers defense. Derwin James plays tight ends really damn good. So I'd rather avoid that, but go for it. Truly go for it. If you want, he's been one of the best tight ends this season, and he's only played 2 games. So if you want to go after him, I don't blame you. His target share is crazy. His red zone target share is crazy. If you want to go that route, I'm fine with it. I will not argue with you. I can't do it. I cannot do it. Tongas again. I mean, this guy has been a guy I've mentioned fit the George Kittle role kind of nice the last 2 weeks. We've seen the points get there. Obviously, when George Kittle comes back, he's probably not relevant anymore unless Kittle gets hurt again. But I think until then, he's in a pretty good spot. Yet again, all these guys that I'm going to mention for tight ends, there's only, I think, 1, maybe 2 more names I will mention, are tournament plays. And cash, I'm playing Ferguson, Warren, and I'll have that discussion of Tucker Kraft, but I'm probably paying up for one of these 2 tight ends. But one of the names I will mention, if Brock Bowers is out, Michael Mayer at 3,100, I think could be a good tournament option. We've seen Albert O get some volume, but it was pretty clear first couple games for Michael Mayer, they wanted to get him involved this season. So at 3,100, if Geno Smith could play some good football, we could go that route. Other than that, on tight ends, I will mention Hunter Long at 2,500. I have to mention it. Brenton Strange is out. Seattle's played tight ends pretty damn poor this season. Hunter Long, I would imagine, is kind of the guy that gets the receiving work for the tight ends. So at 2,500, if you want to punt this week at tight end, if you want to pay up for Puka, if you want to pay up for CMC, you want to pay a good quarterback, and you want to punt somewhere, Hunter Long at 2,500, I'm not joking. I would not be surprised to see him as one of the top 5. We'll say that because we already know who the kind of top ownership guys are going to be. But I would not be surprised if he sneaks in there in ownership. I would not be surprised at all at 2,500. Defenses, I mean, you guys could go and just dissect defenses and flip a coin, right? We thought, if you saw the ownership for last night's game of the Giants and Eagles, Philly's defense had a lot of ownership. They sucked. So do with what you feel comfortable spending, right? Figure out everything else and then go to defense and then see what you have left. I always just try to find a cheaper defense and just punt and hope they play good. So we could throw some names out there like Jacksonville against Seattle, Seattle against Jacksonville, right? Where both the defenses get points and we just hope the opposing offense sucks. We could go New England. I'm fine with that. Or kind of just paying up, right? Packers against Flacco, Steelers against Dylan Gabriel. Like, I'm fine with all those. So, just do do what your budget allows you to do. I truly don't want to go over defenses. I think it's just all randomness every week. So hope you guys did enjoy this video. I'm sorry that I kind of combined both videos into one. I will not have be available this weekend to kind of do separate videos, so I just combined them into one. So I do apologize about it. If you guys want to see where I'm at going into the slate, I will be live Sunday morning, kind of just going over where I'm at with the slate. So hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys have a good DFS Sunday, and I will see you in the next one.